Donc déjà, bonjour à tous. Vous m'entendez tous?
Alright, so hello everyone, I hope you can hear me properly. This will be partly in English and partly in French. So you will have the possibility to follow in both languages. I think we have lost a panelist, so we are going to give them a couple of seconds to arrive.
Non. Non, on commence avec Renaud Vedel. On va le retrouver. Ouais. Maël est parti le chercher, il est là. Voilà.
All right, so hello everyone and welcome. I have only just arrived, so I've not seen everyone yet. And this is now our last session for the AI Generation 2030. We're going to talk about ecosystems and the importance of having AI ecosystems. We have a panel of researchers, professors, government representatives from France and from Belgium with us today, the Wallonia, Brussels and Flemish part of Belgium. So we are going to think about how important it is to work together. I mentioned several nationalities, but I'm quite convinced that we mostly have European people here on the stage. They know how important it is to work together for artificial intelligence and to be, the necessary strike force today to make sure that European research shines through and that the impacts of artificial intelligence are We'll start with Renaud Vedel, who's at the head of National Strategy for AI in France. But before, so he used to work for the Ministry of the Interior. He now works at the Ministry for Economy and Finances, and he will present to us the French ecosystem, including the Francia hub. The floor is yours, Mr. Vedel. You can present this ecosystem, and then I will have a small question for you regarding the challenges of the Francia hub. I have a bit of a broader presentation, in fact, so I wanted to present to you the three types of ecosystems. First of all, the higher education ecosystem, the research ecosystem, as well as the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Regarding the European entrepreneurial ecosystem, we do have slides. So, in fact, so it doesn't matter. It's okay. Yeah, so that's basically a teasing for what's coming next, so. There we go. There we have it. So let's start with what we called the excellence centers or skills centers, competence centers. The Villani report said that we needed to create a stronger structure like it is done abroad. It's not very original. It's done in the US. It's done in China. Quite a lot, sadly. I don't mean sadly, I just mean China is going really, really fast. It's done in a lot of European countries. And so there was that idea to have that interdisciplinary Institute for AI in a network, basically. So 4 of them received a label in 2019, including Prairie. So that is in Paris. We have the Grenoble ecosystem. We have one on the Côte d'Azur and another one in Toulouse. So those are consortia that are attached to a university of reference with engineering schools, other universities, research centers, etc. We also had, and I don't want to spoil her presentation, we have also a bigger one in Paris, and then there are 2 other centers that have emerged since then, and I think it's important to talk about them as well. The alliance between Polytechnique and La Sorbonne University, so as well as HEC. So you have 7 centers altogether, and they work on different themes. And I believe that there are many relationships that can be created with Belgian universities and Belgian researchers. So I thought it was important to have a meeting. We had a wonderful evening actually in Paris in November of 2021. And so basically, you know their names now. You can have a look on the slide and you know who they are. So the second type of ecosystem we have, I mean, of course, those centers work with research organizations in France, so INRIA, CNRS, and CEA. And then we also have some entrepreneurship pools as well, pools of companies. And that's the next slide, and that'll be the end of my presentation. That's a bit too complicated, too detailed. But these are basically ecosystems, company-based ecosystems. We have the National Association of Startups, all startups, not just AI, but they have an AI commission, and they do a mapping every year. And in the latest mapping, we have 502 French startups involved in AI in different areas of application. So you can have a look at that if you are looking for a point of contact. Then there's a Hub France IA, so they are really focused on vision tech, as well as AI-related infrastructure, data management, applications, and so on and so forth. This is an association that is really specialized in AI. They've created relationships with other European centers, such as a center whose name I've forgotten, some KI I can't remember, the many, the Croatia hub as well, and so on and so forth. So then you have the French Tech Network. It was supported by the state, subsidized by the state. The idea is to support startups, to help them become more mature as a company, to make them grow as well, and especially around AI, and in order to support public services. And then there's Numium, which is the digital subsidiary for big industrial stakeholders, and of course big industries in France also do their own do their bit by transitioning to more AI-based solutions. All of this makes sense. Of course, we have some people at the spearhead and other actors that are more about transitioning. So this is a quick presentation of the French ecosystem. Okay, so with those 5 branches, you can see, that everything is interconnected in France. Do you have any tools in place to centralize information at French level, or to have more relationship with other European countries? How do you breathe life into the ecosystem? We'd like to organize regular meetings. Same as you, we had the Paris AI Week last year. We wanted to have 2 main things. We wanted to have something in the spring with the Vivatech fair, with a lot of international talents and a lot of visibility. So this is mostly focused on application use cases and technology, so commercial. And then in the fall, there's another tech-based event with specialists and experts. And it's really, for the moment, it's really focused on the Paris AI Week. Then you also have, to answer your question, we do not yet have enough of a structure for everyone to work together. And this is why the second part of the national strategy for AI, adopted in November, has yearly credits to do that. And so we will very soon launch an AMI in order to improve the networking, the urbanization. But the idea is not to reinvent the wheel and to really work within the framework of French tech. We don't want to add a layer to a layer cake. We want to just do something new. Okay, very well. We'll move on so as to keep some time for questions later down the line. It's an easy transition for me, I guess, since I can now introduce Nathanaël Ackerman. He's the General Manager of AI4Belgium. He's in charge of AI and innovation at the public services for BoSa. Nathanaël is initiated the Francia hub in when he was in France, and he duplicated the model with Belgian adaptations when he came to Belgium. So Nathanaël, could you tell us a little bit about the Belgian specificities, about those types of ecosystems, and tell us a little bit about the bridges that exist already within Europe? Thank you for your question. Actually, I would say that in France, in the France AI network, we do have a connection between big companies and startups. And I think there's also a public dimension about public services that was missing. And I think France should integrate all that. I think this is really the vision. This is the goal that you need to go. You need to have an innovation ecosystem, a full ecosystem, a complete ecosystem. This is what we're trying to implement in Belgium as well. In Belgium, the policy is a bit different. We have some regions who have who have competence in terms of innovation and AI-related questions. So they will all create their own plan. And so we come in, of course, with a branding that is AI4Belgium. So it's a coalition, de facto coalition of all the stakeholders autonomously. And we're just here to support the regions and also to give, to breathe life into more international networking. When we launched France AI, which was the result of the Villani report. The idea was, I mean, we figured, you know, in every European country, we need to have a coalition, we need to have a structure, we need to find out about our strengths and weaknesses, and from then on, we can build a European alliance for AI. Those are elements that are well known. They are part of ministerial notes in 2016, 2017, and this is being built progressively. So what we did in 2018, just FYI, is we organized as you know, France AI with the Commission and with all researchers in AI at European level. We had a first session in January at the European Commission based on the mapping we did in France, and we said, look, we need to find out what we have, what our assets are. It's always what you need to do at the beginning, a state of play. And so we started with the JRC at European level, and we did that work also in Belgium when we launched that AI4Belgium plan. We supported and helped the regions in identifying their strengths and weaknesses. And based on that, we created opportunities for meetings. We played the role of a hub. We tried to create relationships between people. We tried to look for funding, share information, and so on and so forth. So there are a certain number of things, especially with regards to international relations. And every time we give that information back to the regions because they have the competence. But from an international perspective, it's also very important to have an identified point of contact that can help you deal with the Belgian complexity. I hope I answered the question. I hope it was clear. But in any case, we are a support stakeholder. We look for funding. The funding for now come from the regions, but we, thanks through AI4Belgium, in and of itself, we can manage to generate those types of activities through partnerships, in-kind contribution, and a bottom-up approach, which I believe is key for AI ecosystems. Thank you, Nathanaël.
Okay, so I'm gonna now introduce you Hans de Canck, who is manager of the AI Experience Center at VUB, one of the universities in Belgium, and also the director of FARI, the new AI Research Center in Brussels, shared between VUB and ULB. You are also the Belgian president for the CLAIR network. So it's a lot of ecosystems you have to manage and to gather all fields together. Can you explain a bit FARI and why it was so important to create FARI in Brussels?
Well,
you have slides.
Yeah, I have slides, and I can start my story, of course, with indeed Brussels as a starting point, which, of course, it's not as big as Paris, but it has also its importance. And if you look at the digital ecosystem, for example, you can say that 25% of the digital jobs or in the ICT industry are located in Brussels. Even 1/3 of the tech startups are coming out of Brussels. You also have a lot of big ICT companies. So there is a lot of ICT activity here. In Brussels taking place. 90% of the economy is more in the tertiary sector. So this also means that, of course, when you look at AI innovation, it will be focused to this service-oriented sector, healthcare, public administration. Of course, you know, Brussels, of course, is also capital of public governance and data flow, public administration, also in charge of the regions of Belgium. So there is a lot of activity already taking place. And this is also supporting, I would say, the different partners in Brussels that actually are supporting and motivating innovation in a digital ecosystem, not only from the Brussels capital region, but we also see that on the city level initiatives on smart cities are taking place. You have a lot of private initiatives, ventures that are present. You have the place of the tour and taxi, for example, where a lot of digital companies are gathering. So there are a lot of stars in the system, so to speak. And what you also see now is that the stars are getting aligned. It's not yet maybe the big bear, but it is the small bear, the little bear, to actually also start to collaborate across the commune, the region, and of course also the research institutions. VUB ULB have a strong tradition in AI. Both in the same year, 1983, they both established their first research labs on AI on the European mainland. So we have a long tradition in AI research, as well as also exploring and exploiting this into ventures and into startup companies. Already since 2016, the administration Innoveris on innovation already has spent more than 30 million, for example, on AI projects, collaborative projects with companies and public sector administration. And they thought it was now also the time to gather the competences of both the ULB, the French-speaking university, and the Dutch-speaking university, VUB, to join these forces, not only on the AI labs, but also the older multidisciplinary labs that are in play and are having the expertise in AI research applications, but also research groups in law, in social sciences. So that's why, thanks to the financing of the European Commission with the Relance Plan, we are able to establish and to start the work and have an institute that is really interfacing between the research, academic research, and industry, public administration, the whole ecosystem in Brussels. And we're really focusing on sustainable AI and urban AI, meaning that we start from Brussels. Brussels is the ecosystem, is also the starting point for the challenges, the societal challenges that we want to tackle, and we want to do that together with citizens. So the Institute is really focused to also make it possible to do living lab research, have infrastructure into place, test and experience facilities, to also let citizens contribute to co-creation sessions and to be part of innovation, the innovation process. Second to FARI, also the Brussels Capital Region has put a lot of effort to bring other ecosystems and other players together to submit a European Digital Innovation Hub. I think it's also an European instrument that is really going to be important. So together with the Tech Federation of Agoria and Ceres, and BeCentral, which is really a central hub in Brussels above the central station. We're going to establish there on the same location the European Digital Innovation Hub, so that we can reach out also specifically to the SMEs to help them in the digital transition. And I think you see that now the moment is right to bring all these parties together and to create the different interfaces to speed up that digital transition that is going to be fed by AI.
Okay. Thank you. Why is it important for you, if it's important, to have an ecosystem like AI4Belgium in Belgium?
Well, I think, like Nathanaël said, there's a lot of bottom-up initiatives. I think that Nathanaël was surprised, I think, at the start of AI4Belgium, that there was so much enthusiasm. And I think that a lot of people still from 2019 are still driving the ecosystem and have also put things into motion on the political agenda in the different regions and also in network organizations, in sector federations, in specific application fields. And I think that the role of the different thematic working groups was very important. It's also very well organized that AI4Belgium has said, okay, you know, these need to be domain experts that are going to drive this. These are the people that actually have to take things into hand. It's not the job of the administration to do that. It is to facilitate and to let the people, the experts, actually be in the driving seat and connect with the people around or across the regions to do that. And by doing that across the regions, yeah, then immediately you get also the international dimension. And I think that that's shown this week, that indeed the AI4Belgium initiative immediately from the start had an international outreach because of the fact that every expert that is active in a working group brings their network into motion and into play, and I think that is shown.
Okay, thank you. It's now time for me to introduce you Sabine Demey, who has been very active during this European AI Week. Sabine is director of Flanders AI at Macq. So the link between FARI and Flanders AI may be obvious, but for you, can you explain the ecosystem of Flanders AI in research, but even more according towards startups, for example?
Sure, thank you. Can
you have slides.
Yeah, I have slides. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's really a pleasure that I can present the plan that exists in Flanders, supported by the Flemish government. It's a budget of about 32 million euro a year that is attributed to the 3 pillars that you see here. And I have a slide on each of them. So it's on research, on direct support of companies and organizations into the adoption of AI, and then supporting activities, as you see here, on skills, ethics and legal, and also some citizen projects. But let me go over them one by one. What I also want to illustrate, and that's what you see here with the circular arrows, we have in Flanders an ecosystem in which all these activities are taken up by a lot of partners, but in close collaboration. And that's also what the AI Flanders Plan is doing, bringing these different initiatives under one umbrella. So I'm... Is it the green button? Yeah. So I'm the director of the research program, but I'm here, in fact, as an ambassador of the whole plan. But talking about the research program itself, if you want to have more information, you see the website over there. So when the project started, or the program started, 2019, well, before that, several stakeholders in Flanders were brought together, and they identified some key domains in which there would be invested in the adoption of AI, and you see them over there: health, industry, energy, but also applications for society, government and citizens. And what we see that from the needs in these domains, well, we have identified the 3 key topics you see here on which we will work, or effectively working in the research program. So it's about human-centered AI, it's trustworthy AI, explainable AI. Also the collaboration between AI systems and humans falls under it. Also very important, energy-efficient AI. We are very much concerned about the energy consumption of AI systems from the sustainability point of view, but also from the practical point of view. If you want to run AI in wearable devices, they need to be really very energy efficient. And also for the application of AI at companies, the AI systems need to be what we call productive. And one aspect, for instance, is data efficient, because it costs a lot of money to label data, to process data, and therefore we work on data efficient methods. But I will not go into too much detail on these research topics. What you see to the right is a key element of our research program is that we really start from use cases, as there are the AI-assisted operator or detecting epilepsy, epileptic seizures, or working on improvement of windmill production and so on. And that we validate our research topics really on these use cases. And you see examples of research results that we had on energy efficient chips, but also AI on time series. The ecosystem-wise, you see at the bottom, all Flemish universities are involved. Also, what they call the strategic research centers, which plays also an important role in connecting the academic research with the companies. Then looking into the real direct support of companies and organizations, it's the agency you see there, FLYO it is called, who supports activities that are related to giving info and advice, coaching sessions for companies, also bringing together university colleges and companies together for knowledge building and dissemination, or funding the R&D of AI at companies, or also the implementation for SMEs is covered here. You also see there organizations such as Agoria, FOCA, who are also organizations that cover different companies, mainly in tech sector. Also important are the supporting activities. Skills are very important, and for that there's an investment also on different topics, such as VIA. It's the Flanders AI Academy, which has a doctoral school, but also education for professionals. So we're also investing a lot in professional education, but also education at schools. What you see at the top right, we have a knowledge center, data and society, looking into ethical and legal aspects. At the bottom right, you see examples of citizen projects where citizens could contribute with suggestions in several use cases, and they are being worked out now in collaborations with companies and research centers. So, also from within Flanders, we are looking into, and what you see here, adoption of AI, and it's really the European context. We're looking at it from a point of view towards a human-centered digital future, looking at the well-being of people, but of course also looking at innovation and economic growth. And yeah, we have a strong Flemish ecosystem for that, but of course we also have our international contacts and links with the other ecosystems. And yeah, of course, yeah, also with rail, for instance, we already had quite some meetings, because we have really some overlapping or complementary research, let's say.
Thank you, Sabine. So I'm not going to ask you the same questions, the importance of AI for Belgium, because it's tricky. But for you, what is missing in Flanders AI to be as competitive as you could wish? Except money.
I think we're already doing a good job in collaborating and continuing on that range. So having all the universities and research centers and companies collaborate even more. We have made huge steps due to that program, but doing that even more, end to end. So we are working on also at different technology readiness levels and having that fluent transfer. We have a good tradition also of having startups and spin-offs. We are well known for that. So that in fact works already, and then from startups to scale-ups. So yeah, I'm inclined to say we're doing already quite a good job in a lot of things. Continuing on that route, and yeah, with even the same enthusiasm and continuing on that, and that will surely lead to even better results. And then continuing on our link also with other stakeholders in FARI and Trail, and then internationally, that might also enforce us.
Okay, thank you very much. So I switch in French now. Donc, le prochain panéliste.
So our next panelist is Benoit Macq. He's the co-coordinator of the Trail Institute. He's a professor at the University of Louvain. A Trail is an ecosystem as well as being an institute. And these are the main guidelines of Trail. Now, first of all, I'd like to thank our French colleagues for organizing this event. I had a great time listening to all the pitches, the presentations, listening to young researchers. Was very enriching. We had researchers from other countries as well, which was very positive. Now, TRAIL is indeed an institute which is a part of the policy-making process of Wallonia. A few years ago, Wallonia launched the Digital Wallonia program, and the Wallonia region, before launching this research program, made some surveys and connected small services startups with companies that needed AI to transform themselves. So in the initial phase, we tried to encourage startups to partner with larger companies. And then after this AI program, a more ambitious program gathered the 5 French-speaking Belgium universities, as well as some research centers similar to IMEC, that also joined TRAIL. So the research centers and the universities set up a TRAIL, and you can see how TRAIL operates when reading what's on the page. We have 4 research pillars and 7 main challenges. So 4 research pillars gathering PhD students and 4 main challenges in which the Wallonia region brings its competence. So the first pillar has to do with AI and human interaction, and our strength has to do with consensus when we meet with doctors who need to make a diagnosis. Well, sometimes we talk about learning coalition, and this is exactly what we do. Another of our strengths in Wallonia, but also in the Flanders region, is cyber security, data security. We talk about the advanced encryption standard. This is a Belgian tool that is even used in the US. So we have crypto experts, well-known crypto experts. So this is another one of our strengths. Then third strength, the hybrid modeling. Now, if we have to draw a straight line, no deep learning is necessary. Once we have the necessary knowledge about a glass furnace, for instance, if we only need to describe the process, no AI is necessary. So coupling models and AI is something of great interest to us. And then we should avoid centralized AI. We should work on edge AI, as we call them. So these are our fields of specialty, and I think that we will certainly continue the cooperation with the French colleagues through the mobility programs that we can take advantage of. And then we also work, as I said, on 7 main challenges involving companies, research centers, universities. I won't delve into the details of these 7 main challenges that are operated by the TRAIL factory. And the TRAIL factory is there to accelerate transfer of knowledge, transfer of competences to companies. We want each PhD student to spend 15% of their time working on one at least of the main challenges, and to use cutting-edge technology in their PhD work and thesis. And then let me come back to the 7 main challenges. Last summer, we picked the 7 main challenges. We asked our researchers to go to Saclay, and I saw some of the students that attended the summer session. We met with companies such as Thales. We had a very nice time in Saclay, and next summer we will meet again, but in Berlin. We're very much connected with the Berlin Health Institute, among others. So the 7 main challenges during the next summer will be addressed in Berlin, and I launch here the invitation to our French colleagues to join us along with our German colleagues. So I think that we can work on big European projects together. So as I said, we work with on Learning Coalition, with medical applications. Someone presented a genomic project. This is also part of some of our main challenges. And the summer university, having people working together, practicing together on their softwares and data sharing tools is something that we find very useful. Hence our proposal to organize every summer this summer university. As I said, we held it last summer in Saclay, in a nice farm located next to the Saclay University, and it was very funny seeing those Thales managers coming to our summer university in a farm. So, as I said, you're all invited to the next summer university in Berlin. Now, I do have one last question for you, Benoit, and you can keep your mic. So, yes, we talked about research links with the French colleagues, with the German colleagues next summer in Berlin. What are, in your opinion, the main hurdles or the hurdle when it comes to entering the market and starting a business for Wallonia companies? Now, what are the hurdles? We have within our network some startups that are just getting started. Now, an American startup has easily access to 300 million citizens. Of course, it will not be that easy for a Wallonia startup, which is active on a smaller market.
On en a parlé au début d'après-midi, tout ce qui est croissance.
So, there are several stages in a growing process that a startup needs to follow. Now, we were told that what is lacking in Wallonia in terms of company growth is talent, brain, trained talents. So the main growth hurdles have to do not so much with cash, but with the recruitment of talents. And sometimes companies or startups have a hard time recruiting the right talents. So I would say perhaps that this is the main hurdle that we need to overcome. Thank you very much, Benoit. We will now give the floor to Sarah Cohen Boulakia. She's a professor at the Saclay University in Paris. She's a member of the executive committee of Dataya. We started with France. We are going to close with France. Data relevance is something that has not been tackled in previous pitches. It didn't seem to be one of the main hurdles. However, we do know that data mining, data representation, data regulations are so many topics that Dataya are working on. Well, thank you for staying so late as we begin the session this morning quite early. Now, the Data Institute is an institute attached to the Saclay University and comprising a big ecosystem, partner organizations, research institutes, and of course, the Évry and Versailles universities. So it is a significant structure that has been in place for a few years now, and I think that we were in a way pioneers in our fields. And given the size of our organization, we tapped into multidisciplinarity. Now, AI alone, IT experts alone, well, they can, of course, work in isolation for some time, but this is not what we wanted to promote. Engineer science, math, computer science, astrophysics, healthcare, law are disciplines for which we have panels of experts working together. Now, and this expertise is now part of our DNA, working together in a cross-cutting manner. So we are active in data science, but also in artificial intelligence, and these are our main trades. Then, well, we work with 1,000 researchers, and 42 labs are a part of Data AI. And what you can see on the right side of the page is that in Paris-Saclay, we are lucky enough to rely on researchers who are acknowledged, who are used to work on software bricks that are truly necessary when it comes to artificial intelligence. Now, what are the types of exchanges that we can envisage? And well, today is the perfect day to network. This is the perfect top-down day. And now I think that it is high time to find more bottom-up approaches to build things together, and Data includes different calls for projects and funding opportunities that are available. Now, organizing scientific seminars is something that we're very familiar with. We have a communication team that helps us and that builds programs quite rapidly. And with the pandemic, we've learned to work remotely. So we are well acquainted with these virtual tools. So I think that there is no problem with that anymore. I found the previous session lovely. We are firm believers in the young and the next generations. We need to involve our PhD students. We need to encourage exchanges between PhD students. And those PhD students no longer need us. They have and they ask themselves the right questions. They have taken ownership of their field of expertise. And instead, at Data, don't take it badly, instead of organizing summer universities where there are professors teaching young students, this is not something what we are keen on. We are more eager to have junior conferences and young PhD students animating a conference, and we could envisage organizing the next junior conference jointly with Belgium. We work a lot with Humboldt University in Germany, and we already exchanged with them about holding this junior conference with our Belgian colleagues. Now, of course, what works well in the bottom-up approach is the support to students' mobility. Students build the bridges between our research. Without them, without students, there is no research whatsoever, be it a PhD student or a master's student spending 3 months for a foreign student in Saclay, or for us to send our student abroad, is always very enriching. I don't see how two universities could start a project from scratch without knowing each other and just finding commonalities among them, because a project for them was launched. Now, we also have a large experience in data management and gathering seniors and juniors around that topic in a room is always very enriching. Now you can see that that Raya is located in the Île-de-France region. At the bottom of the page you can see our innovation partners, and on the right side of the page I have mentioned some of the institutes with which we have had exchange students or work on a Dataya project for job seekers that are looking for a job in our field of expertise. Now, I'm supposed to leave in just 5 minutes, but something that has not been said is access to research super calculation. JANCI is a public body. It is part of the PRAS program, and they developed services with engineers, with an easy access for startups and researchers. And I think it would be very interesting that research teams exchange more intensely. This program has helped 1,200 research projects in just 2 years' time, and I think that putting the different teams in contact will certainly be very useful. Any questions in the audience? We do have just a few minutes for some last burning questions or comments. Right, so just some concluding remarks, or one concluding remark. What is the next challenge that awaits artificial intelligence? Well, our next challenge, as I said, is we thought that in the medical sector AI would replace radiologists, but the radiologist using AI replaces the radiologist who doesn't use it. Now, the AI that uses a coalition of humans will replace the AI that does not use the human coalition. So using a pool of humans to take the best decision is our goal.
I agree with what Benoit was saying, the human-centered AI, and challenge is perhaps not the technical side, but as discussed earlier also the human side and the skills to execute all those things.
Thank you. Hans?
Well, I think that there is the past 3-4 years, and we've seen it in the AI4Belgium, the believers, we have them on board. But maybe also to reflect to your question earlier on the SMEs,
yeah.
So there is still a large group that is not ready, has not a time, and of course COVID didn't help.
Not
and I think that specifically towards the SMEs, but also digital inclusion, there's a lot of population, and part of the population who are still afraid. So the trust aspect and the SMEs, that's I think one of the major challenges ahead.
Trustworthy AI, yeah.
J'en donnerai deux. Pousser les murs.
I think that we need to increase and have more trainings. We have a funding of 700 million euros dedicated to training modules. And then I think that we rapidly need to move towards embedded AI, where there are still international positions that are open. So I think Europe here has a chance to to speed up their path to AI. Now, of course, cross-disciplinarity is the key word. Cross-disciplinarity is there to invent. So I would say that cross-disciplinarity is the main challenge. And then the reputation, the image of AI, the geek, the math expert, we need them. We need these profiles, but we need other profiles. We need to be more open to other backgrounds and profiles, and we need to open up. And Nathanaël, for your closing remark. Now, this is the opportunity to come back to this, because we are eager to launch Utopia, a European initiative whereby universities, scientific universities work together to contribute to the positive image of AI. So the competences of the 21st centuries are the main challenges. Convincing citizens, SMEs, our students and policymakers, working with students from different fields, from the medical sector, from law faculties, etc. Thank you very much and enjoy your evening.